G'day and welcome to Daily Insights and Storytelling with me, Moon Willow. It's a real honour and privilege to have you here, especially your energies contributing to our daily storytellings. I really appreciate it. And on that note, if you haven't already, can you hit that subscribe button for me? So most days when I do this, I actually don't have an idea or a clue what I'm going to talk about. And I've probably said this in the past. To be fair, I forget quite often what I've done from a day-to-day basis or what I've spoken about on a day-to-day basis. But I essentially just sit down and start rambling. So I really appreciate the fact that you join me to listen to my rambles. One of the things I have noticed in waking up today is that the energies feel a lot lighter. I've noticed over the weekend, not just for myself, but looking at some of the other people's comments on various spaces and places, is that it's been really quite dark and murky. And I think I've mentioned in the past couple of days that it's almost like walking through molasses at the moment. And I have a lot of feeling that that has to do with the different frequency shifts. And although there is more light coming in, the darker elements are really pushing back hard. But it's almost like waking up today. It feels like that the energies themselves have just shifted up a notch, and it feels a lot lighter and brighter. Still overcast outside. Just thought I'd have a look and check. And it's quite cold today here in, I'd love to say sunny UK, but it's not. But we're heading into winter, so it makes perfect sense. But it really does feel a lot lighter at the moment, and it's almost like we've managed to get through sort of like a darker aspect of the world and sort of moving into sort of more shiny things, I guess, with that higher vibrational frequency. And even through the darker elements, it's almost like the synchronicities have still been occurring, that things are still managing to work through. It just feels like it's more difficult to achieve them, but not impossible. So with that in mind, it feels like from now on, I have a funny feeling though with what's going off, is that we're probably going to have more times where that darker energy comes in, and we will sort of end up feeling lost, alone, sort of having anxiety, fear, and not being able to actually pinpoint why. It sort of like has that almost like a panic attack type feel, where it doesn't correlate to what's actually happening, but you have this emotional response and you have this sensation within. And it's not to say, and the key here for me is that we don't get cross at ourselves for that, and we don't belittle or berate ourselves for having those feelings, because those feelings are coming up for a reason. They're coming up so that we can start to sift through them and deal with them, so that we can integrate more fully. I'm not entirely sure whether I've spoken about it or not, but it's having the, yeah, and I've just lost it. It's sort of gone away. So we'll just leave that for the moment. I was on a roll and something in me stopped me saying it. So I'm now really intrigued to find out sort of the crystal and the cards for today's storytelling, and just sort of see whether that prompts that particular thought process back in. So we'll start by choosing a crystal. So we've got the green Aventurine. So very much looking into our heart space. And so with what I was saying about sort of having almost like that panic attack type feel, it's looking at the past times that that's occurred, and looking at the subconscious. And a lot of when we disregard aspects of our heart, or we've had our heart hurt, broken in the past, or sort of been hurt or broken in the past and had sort of negative reactions, we tend to close off from that so that we can protect those aspects of ourselves. But by actually doing that, we lose a sense of ourselves, and we get caught up in the rabbit warren more of sort of getting lost in the old storylines, or we won't notice that sort of these feelings, these panic attack type feelings, negative feelings, they're not really negative, that they're just an aspect of ourselves that we have been informed is negative. But actually that's where a lot of the power comes from, and by lifting them up and sifting through them, we become more integrated, and we have more of an ability to love every aspect of ourselves without hiding anything from ourselves either. And it's like, in that hiding, it's almost like our subconscious mind can actually trip us up more easily, or we can step into sort of like the more negative energies out there than we would do normally, and we tend to miss then the lightness that is out there, and that higher vibrational energy. So I'm hoping this makes sense to people. I feel like I'm rambling quite a bit today, but I'm hoping that there is a reason and a cause for it. So if you could just focus on the cards for me and shuffle. Yes, I know one dropped out. And I'll just split that way. And if that card that dropped out needs to be there, it will come out again, I have no doubt. Okay, so we've got a polar bear, the tree, and a new one, I don't think this one's come out yet, is the dog. So the polar bear, I know this has come out a couple of times, so you know that I call it Mama Bear. So it's that protective side and very solid side. So within this, it's that instinct to protect ourselves, to protect our heart space at all costs. And sometimes being a grizzly bear and scaring everyone off is not in our best interest. It's not actually nurturing or nourishing ourselves. We feel at the time that that is the only way we can protect ourselves, and that makes perfect sense, because we can become quite overwhelmed with sort of sadness and grief and guilt and anxiety and fear. And the only way we can sort of move forward at that moment, because it becomes overwhelming, is to shut off and shut down and protect our hearts at all cost. But when we do that, we are also cutting off from having joy and happiness and laughter and noticing the magical things that are happening out there. So again, sort of looking at integration and actually looking within, it's not to just give our hearts away to anybody, to every Tom, Dick and Harry. It's actually to have a look at why we're protecting ourselves, having a look at what happened in the past and the clues that were there. But a lot of that is more to do with how integrated we are with ourselves. And I know I use that word a lot, but to me it is key, that integration, and not cutting off from things that actually are existing inside, because they can trip us up. But it's actually bringing that out and understanding that the protection and the shutting down of our hearts at that moment was exactly the right response to actually keep us going forward. But actually lifting up those protections and having a look at them and just being aware that they were right, giving yourself compassion and understanding and love, that actually we can do something different now, and we can recognize that we're not the same person anymore, that we have more experience, and actually we can be more discerning in the people that we trust, and we can become protective of ourselves in a more nourishing and nurturing way, so that we can actually share our heart space in a manner that actually will be reciprocated, and we will receive that back. So that will help us nurture and come forward more within ourselves, within our unconditional love, internally and externally, and actually show that we have worth and we have a purpose for being here. So coming forward with that. Then we've got the tree. So the tree of knowledge. But again, it is about sort of sitting and spending time with ourselves. Now in our society, we're not encouraged to do that particularly. That we're always, it's like the hare in Alice in Wonderland, constantly saying, I'm late for an important date. And it's that rush, and sort of the other one that I always have inside is hurry up and wait. And it's like, I've noticed for myself recently from the universe, it's that constant push to do the inner work, to actually move forward, to get on my soul path, all of those things. But it's almost like I get so far and then I have a block put in the way, a hurdle. And it's actually remembering in those times to actually make use of that space, and actually really connecting into the earth, and actually growing and integrating everything that I've learnt within that period of time. Because more often than not, during that accelerated process, we have accelerated learning and accelerated growth. But unless we actually integrate that within, it becomes an unstable base. So it is actually getting really rooted in our new way of being and how we share that with other people. Because the tree of knowledge is very much about sharing, and it's very much about empowering other people. So after you've actually taken time to allow it to settle down, you've worked out how you can best protect yourself. So you're not going to find the person who's got a completely different opinion to you and share yours, because the chances is that you're going to get hurt, that they're going to argue with you, and that can actually increase the level of fear and increase the level of worthlessness within. So it's actually about, within the tree, it's like knowing that you need to continue to protect yourself, sitting underneath the tree and really noticing the relationships you have with yourself and other people, and notice whether that actually is something that is nurturing you, helping you to grow, helping you to learn, helping you to expand within. So really growing that tree and sharing that wealth of knowledge with each other. Or is it something that is making you feel like you're less of a person, that your opinion doesn't matter, that you're actually feeling shriveled up within and wilting within certain relationships? I've certainly noticed that myself over the years, that there's certain relationships or friendships or interactions I have with people that literally makes me feel like I'm closing down inside, that I am shying away and not wanting to bring out my truth, and not wanting to speak my truth, to the point where sometimes I actually don't feel that my truth is worth anything either. So it is very much that protectiveness of noticing the relationships that actually are helping you to grow, helping you to nurture within, that is actually about empowering you and wanting to see you grow, as opposed to the other. And actually by taking that time, it actually shifts through for you, so that you can end up seeing the patterns of the previous relationships that you've had, and actually knowing that it's not that you don't deserve that you actually really deserve to have that really beautiful relationship with yourself and other people in a way that is continuing to nurture and nourish your soul going forward. So then the last card for this is the dog, which I really miss my four-leggeds. That is something that I'm hoping I manage to get back in my life in not the too distant future. But it's very much about friendships. So this all interrelates as well. And it's with the green Aventurine and our heart space. It's also being a friend to ourselves. We're not encouraged to befriend ourselves particularly, or take that much notice of our internal landscape. So what's coming through for me at the moment is that the dog in this is actually having that friendship with ourselves, the understanding and awareness, and sort of noticing how you befriend other people. Going back to the tree and the polar bear, is having a look at the interactions and the friendships you have. And those friendships will probably have those that are just acquaintances, those that sort of like are blood relations that you may not feel friendly towards, but you know that there is sort of like almost this cultural and social deal where you have to continue to be around your family. But it's lovely to be able to do so. I'm not saying that it isn't, and it's just being aware of how you manage that relationship as well, so that that actually continues to nurture and support your heart space. Sometimes the initial negativity or anxiety comes from those that are blood related, and it's not necessarily done on purpose, but it's actually because they've had their own wounds and they've not been able to have the time to actually deal with it, or the encouragement to deal with it. So they're coming from a scared and hurt place and not realizing what they're putting on to us growing up, more often than not. So it's working out how to befriend them as well in a way that continues to support and nurture your own heart space and enrich your life. But one of the things I've noticed, most especially this year, is that the connections I'm having with people are more soul-based and soul-led, and I feel nurtured and supported in a way that I never thought that I'd be able to be. And I think I'm talking about this because I have a feeling that some of you that are watching this have a similar experience, and just wanting to highlight that we are allowed to find that 10% who have the similar thought process and feelings, and authentic truth are more available. And it's sort of finding them in a way, but most of them are probably all around, and just acknowledging that. But I think the key in this particular one is actually acknowledging the internal friendship of ourselves. That actually, like if we can't have that integration and unconditional love within, it's more difficult to be able, of ourselves, it's more difficult to be able to show and share that experience with other people. And likewise, I think very much that unless we can learn how to be a friend to ourselves, and understanding, compassionate, listening to all sides, and just forgiving ourselves for the decisions we've made if they weren't quite right and we would do it differently now, but just befriending ourselves. And again, if we start to learn what feels right for us within our own internal friendship, that's what we will start to notice on an external level. And I have a feeling that that will start to come in for us more often, because it's almost like the universe listens to the subconscious. So if we're taking up the subconscious, the unconscious stuff, and starting to look at it and learning how to befriend ourselves, warts and all, that will start to shift on an external level, and that's what we will start to expect from other people coming in, and that's what we will start to see and start to receive. Because it all starts to, the universe really wants to manage, the source really wants to manage and give us exactly what we desire. We just have to be aware and cautious about what it is that we're putting out to the universe as to what it is we actually desire. And I think to do that, it's very much about looking at the protections. Do they still serve us well, or are they getting in the way of having rich, nurturing, soul-filling, expansive relationships, friend relationships? But unless we can befriend ourselves, and we can do that better by actually taking time to breathe, to settle, to be aware, to learn how to grow, to see what nourishes and helps us grow and what actually helps us shrivel, and then start to choose those things that nurture us and supports us. initially just for ourselves, and then as we start to get better at that, I feel that relationships and friendships will start presenting themselves more often, and we will be directed to like a Facebook group or here and other places that continue to support and nurture our growth in a way that continues from an unconditional and loving way across the board. So I'm hoping that that all makes sense to somebody out there. And we'll see what vocalization comes out today, or not, as the case may be. No. Thank you ever so much for joining me again. If any of this is making you want to have a little bit more understanding for your own journey, and you would like to have an individual storytelling with me, don't hesitate to contact me through either my website, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. I will be putting my web address at the bottom in the description box at the end. If you haven't already, can you hit that subscribe button? Thank you ever so much for joining me again today. I really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to seeing where the energies and the stories take us tomorrow. In the meantime, love you all. Bye bye.